So in a number of recent posts and videos, we've been getting a bit of grief for suggesting and condoning that you should be mowing in May. Well, this video should hopefully give you an idea of the scale of things. Alright, so I was kneeling down, but you get the idea. We're not short grass and we're not short of diversity. And this weekend we're having a bit of an open farm day. We've got friends and family coming. It's Rose's birthday as well, so we're making the most of it, and it looks like it's going to be good weather. So I'm doing some mowing out. Now, in a recent video and on a couple of posts on Instagram, people were saying that I was recommending people should be mowing, and actually we should be suggesting the opposite and using our channel as a platform to tell people not to mow. Well, we're not mowing very much. I'm simply just doing the outside so we can walk through and not have toddlers stung all over with stinging nettles. Now, I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you a little bit of more patches of the farm which don't really get seen in videos much, mainly because they're over there. The secret meadow is another 5 or 6 acres, which is not particularly good for livestock, no good for hay, but it's great for wildlife and it's great for a walk. So this video is more about that side than this side. I'm just mowing a few strips ready for electric fence over the next 2 weeks, but let's take the tractor and probably the drone, head over to the secret meadow and let me show you the state of things over there. Some would say neglect, others would say no mow May, others might say we've got enough on our plate and that's just how it happens to be. But no shortage of wildlife. All the verges are just teeming with rabbits, and yeah, well, there's another food source. But anyway, take a look at this, let me know what you think. This side is okay. These are traditional flood meadows, and we're working with others in the know who are going to help us restore these and get a bit more diversity back into the grazing. So these would have been, well, they are traditional flood meadows, and because of that they need to be a little bit tolerant of sort of flash flooding out onto them. Not that it's actually happening that much over recent years, but when it does happen, it gets right over to that hedgerow and then disappears again within a couple of hours. So that's something to bear in mind, and we need to make sure that whatever we're putting here is going to grow in those conditions. And you can do that by preparing this land and then spreading kind of the hay or the cut grasses and other wildflower from other meadows onto your meadow. But in the meantime, we are strip grazing this with the sheep, and by doing that, it means that our ground gets lots of time to rest. So it's probably 8 or 9 weeks at least before the sheep will get back to where they started. Well, there we go. Now you've seen it, now you know. There ain't no shortage of butterfly space here. Even the pigs have got the biodiversity. They've got thistles and docks and all sorts going on in there. We rejigged a bit of the fencing today and moved the pigs over to here. They've just got single strand of electric on the inside to stop them messing with anything. And then for now, we're just giving them the full length of the barn just for 2 strands, and we're having no problems at all with that. So they're happy enough. Can you imagine what they would make of the secret meadow? They'd love it over there. There's plenty of wallows and stuff as well, because there's a bit of a scrape in the middle. It's not really a pond, but it's just a wet area, which they would love. They'd be all in there. But nothing is speedy with nature, and nor is it with our to-do list. We have absolutely no rush to achieve the goals we want to do with the land. It's all about taking the time to do it properly, doing the proper research, and hopefully getting livestock and nature to do most of the work. If we start using machinery, chemicals, it's unnecessary. There's no rush. There's no rush at all. And this bank is what brought up the comments. Let's have a look at it. So you might remember when we moved here, this was just, I mean, you couldn't really make out what it was. It was just overgrown. It's just overgrown all the way along, and it wasn't long when we hit spring for that to take off, and it was just all maybe nettles and strangling the grass. So by strip grazing it with the sheep, it showed up where the issues are, where the nettles are, where the lumps are, but more than anything, it's shown that there's just so much dead growth of thatch. You know, like if you're doing a lawn at home and you need to scarify, I mean, none of this, what I'm pulling up, is a lot, you know, it's just dead growth and horrible stuff in there. And as soon as we can get that out and overseed it with a nice mix, and that was another thing people were saying, oh, don't put it just the grass. It's not, when I say overseed it, I mean overseed it with a herbal lay or a pasture mix. You can get certain mixes for pigs. I mean, look, if we get this out of the way, you can see the soil's there, it's completely bare. So we'll be planting all those new kind of mixed grasses and herbs and all that's in there. And all this, you know, we've gained, I haven't even plotted it on the map yet, but it could almost be an acre by the time it goes down to the flat section. And all of this was just unusable before. And the reason we are putting the effort into this section, like I said in a previous video, is not so the kids can use sledges to go down it, or I can build a giant water slide. It's in actual fact the fact that, like I've shown you, we've got flood meadows here, which basically rules out those for any winter grazing. It's just kind of too risky for animal health, and also just if it flooded, there's not many high spots. You can end it with sheep doing the doggy paddle. So by having this paddock here, it's early enough in the year we can get it all harrowed. So I'm hoping to get a springtime harrow, and we'll rip out all of that old dead stuff. We'll overseed the whole lot. Hopefully there'll be enough rain and warmth that will take off over the summer, and by the time we get into autumn, we're going to hopefully get this replaced, this one up here. Not urgent, this one. But what I do want to do, he says, what I do want to do is run a permanent fence in at the bottom, or just up from the bottom of the second bit. This is a terrace, that flat bit in the middle, which is quite handy if we want to put the pig arcs down there or any field shelters. But in actual fact, if we can have a permanent fence down there, my idea for the grazing, the regenerative grazing for the farm, is from spring, summer through to autumn, we do this sort of mob grazing, this rotating them around, managing the land with them. If there is a particular part of the farm that needs clearing, that's what where we'll put them, that type of idea, rather than just letting them go anywhere. And it helps with parasites, it helps with actually the soil, it doesn't get compacted around water troughs and stuff. But once they've done that all summer and autumn, then I think I'm gonna give ourselves a break, and we'll probably let them have whole paddocks, whole fields. So that is why the beautiful looking pinks and yellows and greens up in that hayfield, we call it Hillfield, it's a very imaginative name. And the main benefit of that is it's freely draining, it's plenty of grazing for the number of livestock we've currently got, and more if we needed to. So we've got that 5 acres, we've got this kind of little paddock up here, and now we've got that hill field, so we can still do a little bit of rotating through winter to rest land, but it means we don't have to do the daily or the weekly move with all the electric fencing and worry too much about that. It's quite nice to have a physical fence and know it's pretty robust and bomb-proof, he says, before they get goats. Before my battery goes, let's have a very quick look at the field here, which is going to be our first cut, our first crop, whatever you want to call it, of hay. So already we're up at waist high here. This has been cut for hay for decades, so I know that we haven't really got any problems. People did talk about buttercups. We've got a lot of buttercups. The whole area around here has got a lot of buttercups. Read any book, any website, they'll say it's poisonous, toxic, and that probably is the case to a certain extent. But for one, they tend to eat around them, and two, up here in the hayfield, doesn't matter. This was yellow a few weeks ago, and a lot, you know, people were getting in touch saying that you can't feed that to anything once it's hay. As soon as it dries, supposedly, absolutely harmless. So no problems there at all. It's got the dandelions, it's got the buttercups. It's a nice meadow hay, and I think it'll be just fine. We're gonna do it with next door. So Craig, who came and gave us a hand with the telehandler, with the chassis, he's gonna arrange to get this cut at the same time as all theirs. I think he said they use a contractor to do the cutting, and then all the actual kind of turning and baling. They've got a nice little old small baler, which means we can get all small bales, no giant round bales that we won't be able to budge. As soon as the bales are out, then the sheep will jump straight in, and they'll graze up, they'll tidy up everything. Then we'll probably rest it a little bit, and then they'll be in at the winter. While we're down here, we should check on the three sisters. These are the 3 birch trees that we planted. This one still needs another stake. Faith quite likes being the wonky tree, but we better stake it up. But these are the 3 birch trees we planted the day we moved here, and they're doing just fine. There were also a dozen Christmas trees in here. Well, the rabbits got them in the first week, and then I just mowed over them. Not sure what the takeaway is from this video. It was more a case of, one, reassuring you that we are not being and we're not overseeing the nature, the biodiversity, all that stuff. Yeah, we were not just aimlessly mowing for the sake of it. In actual fact, we've hardly done any cutting at all, and the verges and the banks and elsewhere, we have left a lot of areas because they're pretty hard to get to anyway. The banks of that brook are lethal to mow. I really need to think about how we're going to do that. A few people have talked about strimmers on wheels. Looks quite a handy, safe idea. Otherwise, I like the old school finger bars, are they called? It looks like a giant hedge cutter, like you do your hedge in your garden with, but it lies flat on the PTO, and that way it reaches out quite far, and they're fairly inexpensive because, well, I guess no one makes them anymore, so maybe they're just an heirloom piece. But if we could find one of those, that'd be a safe way, but it's about 10-12 foot drop down to that water, and I mean, falling in it on foot would be bad enough, but falling in it on a tractor is not pretty. So we do need to think about a safe way of doing that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because at the moment you cannot see where the bank is. I'm almost contemplating going along there and banging in stakes, a safe zone row of stakes. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. We've still got to tidy up a farm ready for a party, and we've still got hungry mouths to feed here. If you want any more info on the tractor we use, Blacktrack, who support the channel, they're down in the description. Of course, ISOtunes, Ear Defenders, they support the channel as well, which makes all this possible. But of course, the biggest thanks goes to you guys. Hope you're enjoying the channel at the moment. We are still mid-build, mid-farm, all going on. So thank you for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time. Ready for dinner? Sure? Not yet? Oh, you're not hungry? No, you're not hungry? Is that a nasty joke to play?